In the early days of the 20th century, the Arctic was one of the greatest mysteries on Earth. Despite the fact that humans had arrived at the top of the world via land and air, one vital question had yet to be answered. Could the North Pole be crossed by submarine? That was the issue that a brave group of men set out to solve in 1931, led by the Australian explorer Sir George Hubert Wilkins. They set out to accomplish what was considered a bold and insane undertaking at the time. They intended to modify an old submarine and embark on an unprecedented voyage in human history, crossing the North Pole underwater in the submarine Nautilus. Before getting into the details of the story, let's take a moment to appreciate the wonderful piece of art on your screen. Tell us in the comments below which character you think will win in a fight, and don't forget to stay tuned for more exciting content. Now let's continue. When the Arctic was still a myth, the world was going through an era of discovery between the 1920s and 1930s. The great empires were vying not just to explore the physical world, but also the technological frontier. Airplanes, airships, and submarines were being developed, pushing the limits of technology further than ever before. The Arctic, with its harsh weather, rough terrain, and year-round thick ice, was one of the last frontiers on Earth. Although some explorers such as Robert Peary and Roald Amundsen had achieved important milestones, no one had ever traversed the North Pole by underwater vessel. It was a daunting challenge, but it was one that the fearless explorers of the time were determined to meet. Among them was Sir Hubert Wilkins, an Australian explorer and aviator, who had already made a name for himself by flying over the North Pole in an airship. But he wanted more. He wanted to demonstrate that man could travel under the ice, not just for the sake of science, but also for military strategy. Wilkins understood the strategic importance of the Arctic and believed that the ability to navigate underwater in these waters could be a game-changer. With this goal in mind, he began to plan his next adventure, which would take him to the depths of the Arctic and to the very heart of the unknown. To realize his idea, Wilkins enlisted the aid of his friends with deep pockets, particularly William Randolph Hearst, the American media tycoon who had funded many adventurous projects. Hearst agreed to finance the expedition on one condition: Wilkins would provide exclusive content for his newspapers. The Nautilus project was born. It wasn't easy to find a suitable ship. Finally, Wilkins came across the United States Navy submarine base in Philadelphia, where he discovered the R-38. Built in 1911, the submarine had seen better days and had been used primarily for training since World War I. But Wilkins saw potential in the old submarine and purchased it for his daring mission.
Wow.
The task of preparing the submarine for the perilous journey began. Nautilus was to be captained by the legendary engineer Simon Lake, one of the pioneers of submarine technology. Lake proposed several major improvements to the submarine's design to increase its ability to function under the ice. These included adding an extra cold-resistant shell, improving the heating systems in the cabin, mainly by electric heaters and pneumatic tubes to drain and recover ballast water, which would help the submarine dive and resurface faster. The installation of navigation equipment based on magnetic compasses and gyroscopes was also improved. However, due to the instability of the magnetic field in the Arctic, the equipment was frequently disrupted. On June 1931, after months of repair and refurbishment, the submarine Nautilus officially departed from New York. With a crew of about 20 people under the command of Sir Hubert Wilkins. From the moment of departure, public opinion and experts were divided into two camps. Some people praised the pioneering spirit of Wilkins and his team, seeing them as modern-day heroes. Many others were skeptical, and even scoffed at the idea of using an old tub of a ship to traverse the North Pole under meters of ice. Those doubts turned out to be well-founded. As soon as Nautilus entered the North Atlantic, it ran into a series of serious technical problems. The diesel engine broke down repeatedly. The main generator malfunctioned, causing the electrical system to be unstable. The temperature plummeted sharply, paralyzing the equipment. The heating system was insufficient to withstand the freezing cold of the Arctic Ocean. Water began leaking into the compartments. Due to the pressure from the ice above, cold seawater began to pour into some of the auxiliary compartments. The situation grew increasingly dire. Some crew members began to doubt if this was a suicide mission. Nevertheless, Wilkins remained upbeat and refused to give up. After almost a month of drifting, Nautilus reached the edge of the Arctic ice. Here, nature began to display its ruthless unpredictability. The ice was thicker than anticipated. Instead of just a few meters as originally estimated, the ice was 6 to 8 meters thick, which meant the ship could not surface when needed. The ability to locate oneself was limited. Under the thick ice, the compass and navigational equipment were unreliable. The crew was almost directionless in the eternal darkness. The oxygen supply was restricted, as was the heat inside the ship, dropping to dangerous levels, affecting the health and spirits of the entire crew. The Nautilus was supposed to be a stratified art vessel, but now it was barely holding together. The once hopeful crew was now demoralized, struggling to maintain their sanity and their grip on reality. The cramped quarters, poor ventilation, and lack of sunlight were taking a heavy toll on their mental health. Some crew members began to see apparitions. Others started to hear strange noises. All of them were trapped in a steel tube under the Arctic ice, surrounded by nothing but darkness and the haunting silence of the sea. The situation aboard the Nautilus was becoming increasingly dire. The crew was suffering from a combination of factors including oxygen deprivation, prolonged darkness, and extreme cold. These conditions were slowly but surely taking a toll on their mental health. The cramped quarters of the submarine were doing little to help, exacerbating the sense of claustrophobia and despair that had begun to set in among the crew. With morale at rock bottom, it seemed as though the fate of the Nautilus was sealed. The dream of exploring the Arctic had turned into a nightmare of survival. Would they be able to escape the icy grip of the Arctic and return home alive? Or would they be forever trapped in the frozen wasteland? After several hours, the ship managed to surface again, but it was seriously damaged. On reaching the island of Svalbard, a major technical failure occurred. The main propeller shaft was severely damaged, leaving the ship almost incapable of steering and moving. After docking at Bergen in Norway, the Nautilus was taken apart and eventually sank off the coast of Norway to prevent it from being exploited technologically or causing a maritime accident. There was no funeral, no monument, just a dream that sank in the cold ocean. It wasn't until decades later that historians looked back at the documents, photographs, and logs of the voyage that they realized the true value of the Nautilus. After the Nautilus expedition, despite widespread criticism, Sir Hubert Wilkins continued to pursue his passion for exploration and research. He served in the Royal Australian Navy during World War II and continued to write books and give lectures about his Arctic adventures. In 1958, Wilkins witnessed a remarkable triumph. The United States Navy commissioned its first nuclear submarine, the USS Nautilus. The new Nautilus, capable of diving to incredible depths and traveling vast distances without surfacing, was named in honor of Wilkins and the original Nautilus. In 1958, the USS Nautilus also became the first submarine to transit under the North Pole, proving that Wilkins' dream had indeed been realized. The legacy of the Nautilus lived on, and the story of those who dared to dream big and push the boundaries of human exploration continued. The Nautilus may have failed in its initial mission, but it paved the way for future discoveries and achievements. The story of the Nautilus serves as a reminder that even in the face of failure, the pursuit of knowledge and exploration should continue. The spirit of adventure and the desire to understand the world around us are fundamental to our nature and should not be deterred by obstacles. The Arctic remains a challenging and unforgiving environment, but thanks to the courage and determination of explorers like Wilkins, we have learned much about this region of our planet. The sinking of the Nautilus is a tragic chapter in the history of Arctic exploration, but it is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The crew of the Nautilus may have not succeeded in their mission, but their bravery and determination should be remembered and celebrated. Their story is a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we should never give up on our dreams and that the pursuit of knowledge and exploration is one of the most worthwhile endeavors we can undertake. And with that, our journey through this episode of the Nautilus comes to an end. If you enjoyed the story and learned something new, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment with your thoughts and feedback. Don't forget to stay tuned so you don't miss any new episodes. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the world with us.